What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Hopefully your day has been going quite well. Mine was going extremely well until we got a report from Bloomberg that said President Biden is planning to double the capital gains tax to almost 40%, which ultimately shot Wall Street down. Stocks dropped almost immediately, and well, here we are right now. What I can tell you though is, and I'm going to address this in a minute, is this is going to be a big thing for everybody if this does go through. Again, I'll address that in a minute, but what I can tell you is that right now what we know is that President Biden took time out of his day today to address and kind of speak with other world leaders to try to get them on board with going green. He says this is something that we all must do. We also know the IRS sent out another batch of $1,400 stimulus checks. We know Democrats completely rejected the Republican proposal for infrastructure. I will address that. That is actually interesting as to what is taking place there. We know the House passed a bill to include DC as the 51st state. So that is actually pretty big. This is only the second time in the history that this has happened. We know President Biden is proposing a capital gains tax of nearly 40%, and 74 lawmakers in the House of Representatives want to see a $2,000 check or recurring $1,000 checks. So let's jump into what is currently going on because there's a lot of stuff taking place. First, there's now a group of roughly 74 lawmakers in the House that want to see an additional stimulus check. Yes, a fourth stimulus check. This group is being very specific and not calling it direct payments, calling it a stimulus check. And here's the reason why. Some lawmakers are saying we need more direct payments, but then when it comes down to actually doing something about it, the direct payments are then turned into extending unemployment or an expansion of the child tax credit. It has nothing to do with an additional stimulus check. And so this group is being very specific and calling it a fourth stimulus check. So the reports indicate that this group wants to see their first priority is a $2,000 stimulus check, not recurring, just $2,000 as a one-time payment. Then, if this cannot happen, then they are content with kind of rolling back and going with a $1,000 per month recurring stimulus check until President Biden says that the state of emergency is over. I can tell you right now, having something that's open-ended like a $1,000 per month stimulus check for a set amount of time, but that set amount of time is contingent on when the state of emergency is over or when this pandemic is gone, that is something that many Democrats and Republicans would not go for because it could be too expensive. So the likelihood of a $1,000 per month stimulus check is actually fairly small compared to a $2,000 one-time payment. Okay, just wanted to let you know about what's currently going on there because that's kind of where we're seeing things kind of revolve around. It's the $2,000. It's not $500, it's not $600, it's not $1,200, it's not really $1,000. It's $2,000. That's the number that everybody keeps on going back to. So that could potentially be good for many people. This news is at least promising at this time. We know that more and more lawmakers are coming out in favor of an additional stimulus check, so that's great news there. But like I said earlier and yesterday as well, until we have President Biden come out or even the Biden administration come out and say he is in favor of it, at this time we cannot say that this is going to be guaranteed, this is slam dunk. Even though the majority of lawmakers want it, we can't say this is going to happen because President Biden has to come out and say it himself. Right now, the priority is infrastructure. Then, once that is agreed upon, then we can start adding in more pieces into the bill and potentially get another stimulus check. We know the focus is going to be on infrastructure, has been on infrastructure, and will be on infrastructure for many more months. And even today, Republicans proposed a bill that would have provided, and I said this earlier, it was going to be right between $600 and $700 billion. Well, it didn't even get there. Republicans proposed a bill for $585 billion for infrastructure. But right away, Democrats shot that down and said it is far too small. The GOP proposal also relies on a set of mostly unrealistic pay-fors and would impose user fees instead of the Democrats' approach, which had just raising corporate taxes. Now, whether they go with raising corporate taxes or additional pay-fors, which Republicans want because they don't want their large donors to have to pay additional taxes in order to, pretty much just go with what President Biden's doing. And so that's the big issue. Many Democrats say that this proposal doesn't meet the current needs, and that the proposal was still far too vague on how the bill would even be paid for. But even though Republicans are vague on what they want and how they're going to pay for this bill, Democrats are not. And this is where my day took a turn. I ended up losing a lot of money today. And I'm making a lot of money, but I also lost a lot of money. And that's not important. What's important is what is actually happening in the future. Here's what we know. According to reports today, President Biden plans on increasing the capital gains tax to 39.6%. It's currently 20%. Well, this would effectively cost New Yorkers 52.22%. This would cost people in California, when you include federal and state taxes, and then you include money for Obamacare. Well, this would actually turn it to 56.7%. Yes, 56.7%. So over half of your income would go towards taxes. That is where some are saying that, no, this is far too high. The good news is, though, right now, this would only affect those making over $1 million per year. But again, I don't want you to think that this will not impact you, because it will. This is mostly going to impact high income individuals, anybody that makes over $1 million per year. It's going to impact investment firms, hedge funds, millionaires, billionaires. That's who it's going to impact. So even though it doesn't seem like it's going to impact you, it will in one way or another. We also know that if this proposal, we don't really know what it's going to look like, and we probably won't know until next week. What we know is that President Biden is planning to unveil his next infrastructure plan, the American Families Plan. That should come out next week. I believe they're saying this can come out before Wednesday, but we will see exactly when. But when it does, I promise I will fill you in on all those details. We know right now that some do support this, but we don't know if all Senate Democrats support this provision. Some probably do, but the majority of them, we don't know. And until we actually get a response, until we actually get this in the bill and see who's pushing for this, see who wants to make some changes, right now, we just got to go with this has the potential to possibly pass. What I can tell you right now, though, is that all lawmakers have their hands full, and that they don't know what is really going on with every different bill that's currently being proposed. Today, the House passed a bill that would actually include D.C. as the 51st state. But, and this is a monumental moment in history, because the House has only done this one other time in their history. So, this is actually going to be big. Experts currently predict that this has the chance to pass the Senate as well, and it would become the 51st state. But, and this just goes back and shows us that many lawmakers, specifically senators, have their hands full, and they're not actually seeing all the stuff that's coming through. When CNN asked Senator Joe Manchin, who is a Democrat, if he supports this move to include D.C. as the 51st state, his answer was actually quite simple. He said, and I quote, "I got so many things on my plate that I haven't even gotten to that yet." But D.C. as a 51st state, you'd think that would be huge. That would be a big deal. But this is something that he hasn't even gotten to. And this is what many lawmakers are saying, is that they have been so busy with everything going on that they are not even getting the chance to look at everything that passes over their desk. And this is not a good sign. This is not a good idea to just be throwing proposals out there, and the lawmakers, the people that are passing these bills, don't even get a chance to read the entire thing because they don't have the time. There's too much stuff going on. They have too many bills to look over, and they don't have enough time. But here's the good news. The good news is that at least the IRS is doing their job. The IRS is still working on getting the child tax credits done on time. They're hoping that this will be ready before June, so that people can start putting in their information, opting in or out of the monthly payments. And then by July, these child tax credits of $300 or $250, depending on how old your child is, those will start coming out in July. So that's actually really good news there. We also know that they are also sending out additional plus-up payments for anybody that recently filed their 2020 tax returns. Now, if you didn't get a full stimulus check in 2020, so let's say you didn't get your full $1,200 or your full $600 stimulus check, you could get something called a plus-up payment. And this essentially is for people that made too much in 2019, that in 2020 you didn't get a full payment. But if in 2020 your income dropped under the income thresholds, then the IRS would send you the difference. And that is what that plus-up payment is actually doing. So the IRS is sending these out. Just this week, they actually sent out an additional 700,000 plus-up payments. So that's actually really good news as well. But in other news, okay, I want to give you this other news because this is extremely important. Well, pretty much everything in the video is extremely important, but here's what we know. President Biden says that sometime today, the United States will hit 200 million shots of the COVID vaccine. This is big, and he says that this is more than a week ahead of schedule. Again, this is good news because this means that we are on the right track. Now, the bad news would be if the vaccine didn't work. Okay, if the vaccine didn't work or doesn't work, then obviously it's not going to impact anybody, no matter if there was one person that got it or 200 million. Good news is, at least the vaccines are showing that they are proven effective to the COVID virus. So at least that is some good news there. We also know that President Biden is still working with health experts to determine if he needs to extend the 100-day mask mandate a little bit further. Some experts believe that the outdoor mask mandate could actually be relaxed a little bit, but they do state the indoor mask mandate needs to still be in effect. So that is actually what we know at this time. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Like always, consider subscribing. If you want to stay updated on everything that's currently going on, go ahead, smash that like button if you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.